Have you been struggling with lustful thoughts? Have you been struggling on how to break free from thoughts that are lustful or otherwise thoughts that you know are not healthy? A lot of us Christians struggle with thoughts. And because nobody hears your thoughts, nobody knows what you're thinking, but you know. And let me inform you, God knows. But if you don't deal with the thoughts, if you don't deal with your mind, then you're not going to win the battle. Because there is a battle. Because it is known that whatever is predominant in you is what will affect your future. Whatever you think more about is what you will experience in your future. A lot of believers do not know why things are happening to them. A lot of people do not know that it is the content of their thoughts sometimes that inform how they behave when they face new challenges in the future. So as Christians, we desire to be holy and have confidence towards God. The question has always been, sometimes our minds are bombarded with all kinds of thoughts. And sometimes some of these thoughts can be very subtle. How can we win the battle of the mind and live holy, consecrated lives so that we can have confidence towards God? Now that's what we're going to address in this study. And we're going to trust God that you are going to be blessed as you listen. I want to start by telling you that your mind is the battlefield. What do I mean by that? Anything that does not register in your mind cannot register so much in your life. Your mind is the battlefield. The role of the mind sometimes has been undermined or completely misunderstood in our spiritual life and effectively in every area of our lives. Some have no clues as per what is happening, and others are so set in their ways that anyone not thinking like them is not correct. What do I mean by that? A lot of us think, so some people think that the way their minds work, that's the way things are. No. The way your mind works is the way your mind has been trained and conditioned to work. You are the one who is either a beneficiary of how you have trained your mind to work, or you are the loser of how your mind is working. But people don't know that they have an authority, ability to retrain their minds so that their minds can function better. And it is only when you understand that you can retrain your mind and you are in the business of retraining your mind, then you will not even understand that you have the victory that you are asking God for so long. Because the conditioning of your mind is not going to go away even if you have just one experience. Your mind's condition will come back again after that experience. But you are the one to settle down with messages like this and subsequent messages, and the other ones you can pick on our YouTube channel and from our website. You are the one to settle down to now face the fact that you can win the battle of your mind by retraining your mind. So our first scripture today is Romans 12, verses 1 to 2. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So your transformation has to do with the renewing of your mind. Renewing of your mind in this context means replacing certain thought patterns with new thought patterns. And it's not going to come overnight. Replacing lustful thoughts with new thoughts. It's not going to happen just because you thought about it once. So you are the one to know that the transformation you desire comes by the renewing of your mind. That means your mind has a great role to play in your life, and I can dare say in your future. So what does it take to renew the mind? Well, what does the mind do? It thinks. What does the mind do? It has imaginative faculties. What does the mind do? Thinking, seeing, all of them have the mind has a part to play. So what you dwell on is what you are thinking about, for instance, or what you imagine. I think one of the attitudes you should develop in renewing your mind is to challenge your thought patterns. A lot of times we don't ask ourselves, where is this thought coming from? Why am I thinking like this? Why am I making conclusions in my thoughts about this, about that? Why am I having lustful thoughts? Why am I having crazy thoughts that I, as a person, as a believer, I don't like them, but they are coming to me? So the question has to do with, how can I challenge my thoughts? How can I change the patterns of my thinking? The things that have been programmed into my mind, how can I change them? Another scripture that will help you understand some of this, because it's a battle. It's not just, first thing to know that transformation must take place and renewal of the mind, replacement of thought patterns. The second thing is that it's a battle. The enemy is not going to let your mind just rest, because he knows that anyone who controls your mind controls your life. So in 2 Corinthians 10 from verse 3 to 5, it says, though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God, to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. I said in my outline here that what goes on in our minds determines what decisions we make. What goes on in our minds determines what decisions we make. What thoughts we allow can practically determine the outcome of our lives. Whether we are happy, joyful, expectant, or depressed, have low expectations and sad, are all dependent on the content and structures in our minds. So we need to discuss our minds in the area of content, structure, and impact. So let me first explain that 2 Corinthians 10 from verse 3, when it talks about strongholds, high things, imaginations, and thoughts. I want you to know that all of them start with thoughts. A thought becomes a high thing. A thought becomes an imagination becomes a high thing becomes a stronghold. That's how it works. So if you accommodate or encourage a thought to continue for long, you begin to see mental pictures of that thought. After some time, the mental pictures become high things. After some time, they become strongholds. A stronghold is something that has a strong hold on you. It's not something that just happens. It looks like it just happened, but it has become a stronghold, such that any time those thoughts come into your mind, they come with a greater force, with the ability to control your decision, control your thoughts, control your actions, just because it has become a stronghold. A lot of people do not know that thoughts grow into high things, into imaginations and stuff like that. But that's why that 2 Corinthians 10, 3 to 5, it talks about casting down things, pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing to captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So you know that any thought that is not in obedience to the obedience of Christ, you have a right to regulate it. You have a right to put it back in shape before it becomes a high thing or a stronghold. But because many people do not know these things, they have allowed thoughts to become strongholds in their minds. So they think they are enslaved. Not they think, they are enslaved by the thoughts that they have permitted. And when you permit a thought to linger, and it has become an imagination, a high thing, and a stronghold, then you now see it as part and parcel of your life. You see it as part and parcel of how you, in fact, it now defines who you are. It defines how you respond to things, because it has now become a stronghold. And that's why a lot of people do not know that these things are controlling their lives, and they wonder why. And because it's a private thing, sometimes they don't let people know what's going on in their minds. But I'm here to help you. And if you allow, we can now learn how to pull down those strongholds, how to cast down those imaginations, and how to cultivate a new lifestyle that is devoid of such wrong things. So because what goes on in your mind determines the decisions you make, the thoughts you allow determines the outcomes of your life, whether you're happy, joyful, expectant, or depressed, or have low expectations and are sad, or are all dependent on the content and the structures in our minds. So let's discuss content as time permits us. Content refers to what we have exposed our minds to. Positive or negative inputs go a long way in the healthy use of our minds or otherwise. Structures in our minds are determined by our nature, nurture, and culture. This is how we process thoughts, analyze experiences that we go through. Certain things have had great impacts on our minds beyond our comprehension. Our minds have been conditioned by many things that we have been through and how we interpreted them to ourselves. If we look at a child below the age of 5, we see a mind that seems not believe in impossibilities. The child has not been trained in fear of failure or rejection, so he or she attempts things that are seemingly impossible. That child has not been trained in impossibilities. Since the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, the body and soul had gained ascendancy over the spirit of man. Christ came to restore us back to how God created us as spirit beings, having a soul and living in a body. There are laws that govern every realm of our existence. The natural, mental, as well as spiritual realms are all governed by God's laws found in the Bible. We were designed to use our minds to think and not to be dominated by the thoughts that jump into our minds. Those thoughts take advantage of the structures built into our minds, and hence we interpret those thoughts with an air of finality as if they cannot be changed. Well, I'm going to continue this in our next series of Winning the Battle of the Mind, and how you can overcome lustful thoughts, how you can destroy some thoughts that are not healthy in your mind. Until I come your way next time, this is Reverend Kola Ewuosho saying, watch out for the content, the structure, and the impact of your mind. God bless you, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.